Okay, trig. This happened to be probably our best unit, except for the ambiguous triangle, but otherwise sine law, cosine law we got. How do I know to use what? If I have what, I use what? Give me an example. If I have,
two sides.
let's say, pair. If I have a pair, what formula do you use if you have a pair inside a triangle? Remember that? Sine or cosine law? Sine law. If you have what or what, you would use cosine law. There's, what did you say, 3 sides, triple S. You use cosine law. Or, what was the other example? SAS. So if you have SAS or triple S, those are the cosine law. Okay, you are looking up to a building at an angle of 33 degrees. Okay, so there's a building, you're standing somewhere, you look up to the top, and it's 33 degrees. You walk back away from the building you're walking for 12 meters. And then you look up to the building top again, and now it's 29 degrees looking up. How tall is the building? Okay, so this one I highly suggest finding all angles that you possibly can. So obviously we're going to assume that the building and the ground are at 90. So where would I go from here? What other angle can I get?
Top.
This top? How?
33. Or 33 plus 90 minus 180.
180 minus that. So there's 57 up there. Okay, keep going and get all these angles.
The opposite of 33.
What is beside the 33? How do I know what's beside there? What's the property here? 180. These make 180 on a straight line, right? So those would be supplementary because they're on a straight line. And then can you get the top small one? Because you got 180 in that triangle. So there's only 4 degrees left in that triangle. Okay, what do we have? So we gave 3 options: pairs, SAS, triple S. What do we have going on? Pair. So I can partner 12 and 4 degrees with each other. There's my pair. Do you see it? And I'm going to pair it with 29, and I'm going to call this side Y. Why can't I straight partner it with, let's call this X? Why can't I partner that? Why can't I put this and this as partners with each other? They're not in the same triangle, right? Those are 2 different triangles. This is, let's say, the skinny right triangle, and this pair is in the big whole triangle. So we can't do that. Okay, so setting it up will look like this. 12 over sine 4 degrees. equals y over sine 29. Does that look familiar? Times divide. Do you remember to do your crisscross? Times which two? Divide lonely one. That's what we always do. Okay, on your exam, I am hoping to remind you, but your calculator should be first of all and foremost in degree mode when you're doing this, or you're going to get all the wrong answers, which wouldn't be good. And I'm always looking for 2 decimals with sides, 1 with angles. Okay, are we good with that answer, 83 and change? Now I'm going to do another partnership. I have that can go together, and that. Do you see how I'm using the 33 degrees? Because now I'm actually forgetting about this triangle, and I'm just focusing on the smaller right triangle. Okay, making sure I understand there's 3 triangles in this picture. Some of you like your SOHCAHTOA stuff. You can do that as well. I don't know if you got a decimal or 2 off mine, but it's because I kept mine in my calculator. I didn't round it, but. Oh, same. Number 2, you are on a westerly shore of a body of water. So that's where you are, west. You are 600 meters from the north shore. You're 600 from the north, and you're 450 from the south. You know that from where you are, the angle between the north U and the south is 78 degrees. What is the distance between the north and south? Okay, now that I have it drawn, pairs, SAS, or triple S? SAS. So we go x squared equals 600 squared plus 450 squared minus 2 600 450 cos of 78. Okay, these formulas would all be on your formula sheet. You just have to understand which formula to pick for what, right? Okay, when this one gets typed in, it is all in at one time. And then what do we do at the end? We have to square root it because that formula says that's squared. Okay, solve for side x. So ask yourself always, pairs, SAS, triple S. Pair, okay, so there's my pair. I have a problem here. I can't pair with x because that would go with that side, and I don't know that side. So it's not that I can't do that. Okay, so that's out. But obviously I have a 20 there, so the 20 is what we got to go with. So when I do the 20 pair, let's call it angle Y is what we would get. So we're going to have to find angle Y using the pairs.
Did you do a squared plus b squared?
Nope.
Oh, you can.
Only in, yeah. Pythagorean theorem and your SOHCAHTOA stuff only work inside right triangles. So 21 over sine 81 degree equals 20 over sine y. I'm going to times and divide. What do you do to get angles? What's the thing always to get an angle? What's the rule? To get an angle, you're always going to be inversing as the last type. Okay, so you got that times, you got to divide, and then sine inverse. You probably would remember because you're getting, otherwise you'd get a decimal answer. And at angles, I'm good with 1 decimal.
How do you put that into a equation?
20 times sine 81 divide by 21
Yeah.
equals.
Oh, equal. Okay.
And then second sign, use your answer button.
Oh.
Use your answer button. Okay, everybody should be proficient at using that answer button on your calculator now, okay? Getting ready for grade 12, you're going to be, you can never, ever, ever round anything in grade 12 while you're working until the very end. So you always got to be using your answer button. Okay, so that's even not my answer, but it helps me because if that is 70.2, then I can do 180 minus. Okay, that's remembering there's one question that I make you do sine law twice. So as soon as you see a pair, use sine law. Find the smallest angle. Well, which one is going to be the smallest? How do I know? Smallest would be angle B, right? Because it's across the smallest side. That's the rule. So which situation are we going to go with? Triple S. So cos B equals a fraction. This is the fraction one. Okay, in this formula, when I look at my formula sheet, I always put subtract at the end first. Which side do I want to specifically make sure is there? 7, 8, or 6 at the very end of this formula. You want the opposite side in the formula to get subtracted, right? I fill that in first, like that. Okay, Now 7 and 8 go everywhere else. So 7 squared plus 8 squared, 2, 7, 8 on the bottom. Okay, big important that when you're typing this in, whatever side is opposite is in the subtract position. Okay? Does everybody have their formula sheet with them? Some of you aren't, and it's probably a good idea to practice using it.
Is this the formula sheet? Like,
Yep, yep,
This is what we'll get on the.
yep.
Alright.
Okay, so practice using this because you're ready for your exam. Oh, I found that formula, right? So like I said, I subtracted whatever was across from my angle. Did you find it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when I type this in, I'm going to have the top in brackets divided by the bottom in brackets and get something. Then I'm finding an angle. So I will cos inverse answer button. Okay, those would be the steps. Bless you. Please be careful. I don't know how many times this happens. I can see people do the formula and then they type it into their calculator and then they press second sign at the end instead of the cos. Okay, so focus on, are you using sine buttons or cos buttons? Because I'm hoping for most people this is the highest point getting part page of your exam, okay? Okay, everybody does have their formula sheet out because we're going to keep going with it. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, the next part of trig was solving trig equations. Oh, I heard it already. I was just going to ask. I heard the letters. Astica. All soup turns cold. Astica.
All soup.
All soup turns
Oh,
cold.
I thought you said gold.
Not if it's
Cold.
in the microwave.
No, ooh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay.
There's always a loophole.
So which quadrant would I be located in? I told you that the sine of the angle has a negative trig value and tan has a positive trig value.
S.
A and T.
Oh, yeah.
You can only pick, there's only one quadrant this works.
It's just three.
It's the third quadrant.
Oh,
So I'm going to draw an angle in the third quadrant.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to draw a triangle. Okay, some of you use SOHCAHTOA stuff, and some of you just straight use the formulas on your paper. So here it is. The sine is the y over the r, or opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to put negative 13 on that side, and I'm going to put 85 on that side, because that's my y side and that's my r side, or this is my opposite and this is my hypotenuse, whatever you're thinking. So I need to figure that missing side out, and what would be the strategy to get that side? old strategy from the past that we can only use in right triangles. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, but this one is going to be subtracting, right? We're trying to get Pythagorean theorem with a shorter side. Do you remember me saying this? Don't do math with negatives. Negatives are locations. Negatives don't go in your math. So just do 85 squared, subtract 13 squared. And I got 84. Okay, now that I got my numbers, so math is separate than location. What do you do about the location of this 84? Negative 84. Look at where it's located. It's a quadrant 3. Every quadrant 3 coordinate should be negative, negative. So now, what is the cos theta? What over what? So if your formula sheet, if you like x over r, or if you like adjacent over hypotenuse. Bless you, bless you. And the tan theta is y over x, or you can do opposite over adjacent. But I would really like you to understand that that's a positive fraction. And it should be positive because of our astica told us. Our astica told us it should be positive. So yeah, there's one on there on the test figuring this stuff out. So make sure you do your process of what quadrant am I in? Pythagorean theorem. Okay, get your ratios in the right order. Okay, solve for x. First step is your algebra branch. Where are we? Should we isolate? Should we try to factor? What should we do? No, I can't isolate because I have two different variables. There's my algebra. What am I doing? Why did I write C and a T? What does that mean? What's my algebra? Complex trinomial. I'm actually going to try to do this one without flowing it. You can, but you should be able to play around with your numbers. Okay, what times what makes 2 tan squared? What do you need? Tan x and 2 tan x. There's not many options. What times what makes 2? 1 and 2. Get your O and your I. What do you want to put here? Do you want to put a 1 here, a 2 here? Can you figure that out? You only have one thing to play around with. Where do you want to put a 1 and where do you want to put a 2? Making sure your arcs are going to make 3 by the end of it. That makes 4. So then if you only have 2 things to try, this would make 1 and 4, making 3. So what do we want with signs here? We want a +4 and we want a -1. Okay, so do you see how my FOIL breaking down works? I'm just playing around with my FOIL. Understanding, first times the first has to make that. Last times last makes that. Those two combos make that. So here we go. Tan of angle X would have to equal what trig value? -2. Tan of angle X equals what trig value? 1/2. Okay, I'm specifically using the word trig value because that's what you've solved for. Is that the end goal? No. What is my end goal? Do I solve for a trig value at the end? No. I need a what? At the very end, I need a angle. I need the angle answer for X. Okay, so get into your process. First step is to do Astica. Where is this angle? Tan, negative, Astica, where?
I would want to say bottom left. Bottom top.
There I am. How do I get a reference angle would be the next step. How do you get an angle to begin with? What's the process of getting any angle?
Tan inverse 1/2.
Inverse. What do I always say when you're doing math steps? Don't use the negatives. So just tan inverse 2. So that is called a reference angle. So what is the actual angle position? How would I figure this out?
180 minus.
180 minus that. Do you see it? Because I'm smaller than the 180 line. And then how do I get this one? 360 minus. Somewhere everybody has a pink piece of paper, I believe, with on the one side. Reese, you're right on that paper, that pink paper.
Take it over.
Show everybody what it looks like. On Reese's paper, the first side of it has your algebra branch, right? And then the second side of it has these steps. Okay? That's a good study paper. So again, the steps were use your algebra branch to get your trig values. Astica it, reference angle it, final angle it. These are some like solid questions on your test because that's worth 5 or 6 points doing that. Okay, so if you miss this question, that's a lot of points. Okay, we aren't done. We still have to figure this out. So we're going to restart everything. If the tan of this angle equals 1/2, where am I? So draw me Astica locations. Where am I? Tan of the angle equals 1/2. Astica. Now I have a reference angle to find. So I'm going to go inversing to get angles. 1/2. So this answer is 26.6. Do you understand when you get your answers, that one would make sense between 0 and 90 degrees, right? Where it is. And then this one would be 180 plus. Some of this stuff coming back. Astica, reference angles. solve for this angle. Okay, so your first step is algebra. Algebra. I need a trig value using algebra. Okay, who has an algebra strategy for me? This algebra branch has to be mastered. It's your foundation for everything. Isolate is the answer. I only have one variable, so I'm going to isolate it. So I'm going to minus 8 and divide. So algebra gets you your trig values. So last time we factored to get our trig values. This branch was isolate to get our value. Okay, step 1 is done. What is step 2 again? Astica. Cos negative.
Honor says bottom.
Lefts. Step 3. What is step 3 again? Reference angle. So that is an inverse feature. To get an angle, you're inversing something. Always remembering, don't put negatives into your math. The negative is already taken care of on where we are. And step 4, give me an actual final answer. Where are you?
I forgot.
Okay, and you also understand that 25% of your grade 12 course is this kind of stuff. Okay? X, Y, R, doing Astica, all this stuff, that's going to be a quarter of your grade 12 course. So I want you mastered at this before starting. Okay, on your exam, you will be given a unit circle. So during the unit, I made you memorize it, recreate it. Do not spend time studying that. Got it? Don't spend time. I give it to you. So don't memorize it, don't replicate it. So here's your exam paper. It's on. Determine the trig value for cos of 150. What? I don't know. Okay, so the formula sheet. X over R. There is something special about the unit circle. What is the special thing that's on the unit circle? Why is it called the unit circle?
Equals 1.
What equals 1?
Entirety of it.
The entirety of what?
I don't even know right now.
Something equals
The
1.
y.
The
Y.
substance in y, it goes out to 1. 0 degrees. 360. 180.
The radius. Who answered that?
Eli did say
You did not.
I did say that.
You did not say the radius.
It was probably overridden by the word's entirety of it, is what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing my chance of this subject.
Oh, man.
Look at this circle. What is the radius of this circle? 1. So guess what I'm going to do in math when I divide by 1?
You don't.
I forget about it. Who cares? Don't need to divide by 1. Okay. So basically I need to go to 150 degrees and I need to find the x value. So can you go to 150 degrees? This is a no calculator question. If you answer a decimal answer, you get 0 points. So don't do that. Go to 150 degrees. What is the x value? And you write that down. That's it. That's your answer. Okay, on your exam, I think I did remind you on this question, when you answer this, don't use your calculator. So again, if you have used your calculator, cos of 150, you would get that, which if you write down, you get 0 points for, okay? You can check, look at this, if I do negative root 3 over 2, I get, look at that, the same thing. Okay? Okay, sine. So whenever you're doing sine, what are you doing? Y over R. This is from the unit circle. So what is the R? 1? R is still 1 on this unit circle. So I'm not going to divide by 1. So 225, what is the Y? Okay, tan. Formula. Y over X. Uh-oh, we don't get to cross anything off. Okay, so I'm going to replace Y. Are you looking on your 300? The Y number is that. And the X number is that. So I can't cross anything off. What do you do here though? You have a fraction divided by a fraction. Flip multiplies. What can happen with those 2's? Gone. Okay, so again, test or exam question, no calculator. Please give me an exact trig value, which means a fraction, not a decimal.
Will you take away our calculator for that?
No.
It wouldn't really help because
I mean, I just checked my answer with my calculator, but you gotta know what you're doing. Ambiguous triangle. Okay, so this is where some of us lost points with our trig. Okay, I'm going to draw a 28-degree angle. Labeling it A. This is side B, because A has to be across from A. So B is beside A. Then do you remember this? If this is 10, 9 is that long, where would 9 reach? Right here. And it could have also reached over Here. Making two possible triangles. So I think some of you really liked highlighters with this. Here is one triangle. 10, 9, and what? That's what I'm going to be figuring out. So I'm going to call it C1. 10, 9, and what? Where's my other triangle? 10, 9, and what? Does that make sense? There's another triangle here, which is called the 9, 9 triangle, but that's not my triangle, because my triangle has to have a 9 and a 10 in it. So you have one option where it's acute and one that's obtuse. Okay, here we go. 9 over sine 28 is a pair. See it? 9 over 28. 10 over sine b. So pair, pair. So I would times divide sine inverse, right? Times divide sine inverse. Okay, here's the situation with ambiguous. The angle is 31.4 degrees on my calculator, or there was actually another option which my calculator doesn't spit out. So I'm going to show you where they are. Remember that B is across from 10, so look at where I could be. I could be across from 10 here, or I can be across from 10 here. Across from 10, across from 10. So these numbers are different. How do I get that second option? 180. $180. Okay, look at these two numbers. Look at your two spots. Where would you put the what? Where would you put the 31 part? In my yellow or my pink? What do you think? The acute one is there. The obtuse one is there. Okay, now you would have to get the third yellow angle. Which is small. It's like 3.4 degrees. I also want you to get the top pink angle. So where's the other pink corners? 28, 31.4. So it's really good to keep this nice and organized. I found my top yellow, I found my top pink angle. See everything? Okay, I super quickly with a 30-second question here. Just want to ask you to do one question. I know we're almost out of time.
How many points would the ambiguous triangle?
That was like a 7-point question on a test. I don't know, 134 or something.
And what's our task?
Okay, just a super quick question, 30 seconds. Can you draw me 559 degrees? How do you draw that? You go a whole spin, and how much more? 100. So if I minus 360, I have to go 199 more. So then that's another 180. So there. And how do you get the reference? What does a reference mean? It means how much am I past, or how much am I to an x-axis, the closest x-axis? I'm 19 degrees away.